my little audience. Okay, so I'm sure that you've heard of the people like Anne Frank, other people that are important during World War II. I'm going to tell you a little bit about someone that's not quite as well known as them, but I feel is equally as important during World War II as they are. Her name was Irena Sendler. She was a female social worker during the war. She had 3 children. She had 2 sons and 1 daughter. One of her sons died in infancy. And then she was married twice. Once she had married her first husband, and then she divorced him, married her second husband. He passed away, and then she was back with her second husband, or her first husband that she married. So she was a social worker, which meant that she had access to the Warsaw Ghetto every day. She helped take care of Jewish families that were sick or needed something. She basically gave the help that no one else wanted to, as the Nazi had proven that the Jewish were not to be allowed a normal life. She was a member of the Zagota, which was a secret council to aid the Jews. So there was quite a few members, but they were only in the Warsaw Ghetto. When she started out saving Jewish orphans, because she knew that orphans wouldn't have families. She'd have to convince there wasn't a risk of being caught with orphans because there was nobody looking out for them. It was really just them there together, just trying to be safe and stay alive. When she started taking them out of the ghettos, she would take them out in things like potato sacks. So she'd throw them over her shoulder, carry them out the gate. No one asked questions. She'd carry them out in caskets as if they had died and she was going to give them a proper burial. Some of them went out in ambulances, which that wasn't as common just because the Jewish didn't get proper health care very often. So ambulances was kind of a rare occasion. And then there was also some underground tunnels that they would use occasionally to get them out. But those were kind of more dangerous just because it's not hard to find a tunnel. But there was also a church that at the time the adults that were Jewish would go to, and they would go in with one name, and they would come out of the church on the other side with a completely different name, and nobody ever knew of them as Jewish before. Eventually, she started taking kids from families that were in there. So she would promise them, she wouldn't promise them life after on the outside. She just promised the parents that she would give them the best shot she could at a home outside of the ghetto, which I thought was really interesting for her, not to promise life, but to promise hopefully a better future. So when she snuck them out, they were either placed in covenants or with non-Jewish families, which, if you think about it, would be kind of hard during World War II just because of how strict everything was. So finding families that would take them was one of the things that she stated in an interview was the hardest for her. So her plan with these kids was to reunite them with their families after the war. And she took a list of the names of the kids and their parents, and then her plan obviously was to reunite them. But she took it and she put it in a jar, and she buried it underground in hopes that no one would find it. She ended up helping rescue about 2,500 Jewish children, which is a lot of Jewish children, and to think that those were all jammed into one tiny area is kind of crazy. Go pee. Alone, she rescued about 400, and that alone in itself is a lot. Just imagining 400 people in a square block is mind-boggling to me. But yeah, she was arrested in October 20th, 1944, and that's kind of when she realized that she was doing the right thing, she said. She stated that that's when she knew she was helping the right people. The Zagota eventually bribed her out in February, so from October to February she was in jail, which is quite a while. There wasn't really any details on why the Zagota took so long to get her bribed out, but my guess would be just getting what they wanted and all of that. So after she was bribed out, she went back to saving children, but there were really no questions asked due to the fact that they had known that she had been bribed out, and there wasn't much they could say without risking their own lives for that reason. She was named the Righteous Among Nations in 1965, which is part of Poland. That's one of their honors. And then she was also given the Order of White Eagle in 2003, which is also a Poland honor. She was actually nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2008, which I thought was really interesting. I had never even heard of her, and for her to be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize really spoke to me. It blew my mind, honestly. But she actually has a movie about her. I've actually watched it. I did a History Day project on her in the 6th grade, and I actually was able to watch her movie. It's called The Courageous Heart of Irina Sandler, and it's very interesting. It kind of walks through what she went through and what the children went through, and kind of puts it into perspective of everything that happened. She ended up dying on May 12th, 2008 in Warsaw, Poland at the age of 98. So she had lots of honors before she passed. I just want to show you a couple of pictures. So this is Irina during the war. This was what she would wear into the ghetto when she was saving the children. And then this was sweet little Irina before she died. This is a couple years beforehand, so she's still pretty young, but yeah.